Well, good morning, Facebook and all the world. Throwing the ball for the dog today. I am David R. Day. We call these Heard Over Coffee. And I had a little trouble getting the internet connected, so that's not going to be a shock. Today, well, this show is inspired by a couple of really nice acts and things that we've done. One of the things I've learned over the last 30 days or so is how wonderful this group is, how fantastic the people that are watching this crazy thing are, and society in general. Let's talk about. Let's see here. Still having tech troubles. That's not going to be a shock. Oh no! All right, let's get this done. Yeah, I had a little tough time getting started today. Yesterday was a big day. I got to go to the dump. I didn't even care that it took me a half an hour to get in. Fantastic. I filled my truck. Yeah, I've started the nasty job of cleaning out my garage, which was the original reason that this show started, is so I could avoid doing that. I sent an order off to New York City yesterday. That was fantastic, and I had all the time in the world. So this show is really inspired by a couple of things. If you had a chance yesterday, I posted a picture from my friend Peter Cohen. Peter's just one guy. He went out and he took a sign and he hung it off the side of the freeway that just said simply, "Thank you, truckers." How fantastic is that? One guy doing one thing to help a whole bunch of people going by. I was really touched because another one of my friends who saw that sign is a gentleman named Rick Doss, R.F. Doss. He calls himself Richard now. And here's what he said. I was returning to Boise on I-84 eastbound and saw the sign offering, "Thank you, truckers. These drivers are the true unsung heroes. I can relate because I was one of them. Drive on and keep on trucking." So Rick is a military vet, a former mail carrier, and he was head of security at the Blues Bouquet for a long time. That one sign touched my friend Rick Doss. One person spending just a little bit of time. So I want to celebrate our wins. I want to talk about Robin learning how to make masks and making masks. I want to talk about Carol. Carol, who was so wonderful at who makes noodles for a church. One person doing one thing can change a lot. I went back and looked through all the shows, and we're going to talk about that. So I want to talk about what we've learned and accomplished. It's really easy, especially now with all this craziness, all the negativity, all the news bombarding us, all the talking about every day there's a new death count and a new number of infections and how terrible things are in New York or in Blaine County here in Idaho. It's so easy to just think that the world's coming to an end, but it's not. Think of all the things we've learned. We're going to talk about that today. There are death tolls and protests and, what the hell's from our leaders. They don't seem to know. I mean, 1 minute we're supposed to wear our masks and then not, and then back. And of course, there was for the search for the teepee. One of the things we learned over the last month or two is that the stores get their delivery at night, and if you want toilet paper or beans, you have to get there first. Kind of hard if you work during the morning. So some of us have helped and reached out and helped some of the folks that are in need of those sort of things, and that's the sort of stuff I want to celebrate today. So from the very beginning, in the notes from my very first show, I asked, should we do this every day? And I was so pleased with the response. A lot of you reached out to me and said, yeah, do this. What the hell? It's kind of fun. We had a chance to get together. Didn't take us very long. Cindy Marlowe came up with the idea that we should call ourselves the Coffee Mates, which works perfect because we are mates, aren't we? And we get together, drink a little coffee. One of the things I learned is I can put not one, but 2 8-ounce cups of coffee from my Keurig in this fantastic mug I got from Jerry Hendershot. You got to learn these things. You got to learn to adapt. You got to learn how to stay in and be safe. So in that very first show, we talked about how maybe we should continue to do this. It's a great outreach. It's great for me. I know from talking to a few of you that it's also good for you. It gives you a chance to get up and get going. It's that first thing in the morning. I love that. In the beginning, we weren't even shut down yet. We talked a lot about how we needed to not necessarily dwell on negatives and we need to do what we could. We talked about tipping a lot in the first few shows, back when we could actually go and do a little of that, more drive through and less learning to cook and that sort of thing. But it's still true. If you do go out and if you are one of those people who does takeout, definitely tip big because those people have lost their jobs. The other thing we talked about early is not being a dick. We worried about whether or not being a dick was sexist, and we decided it wasn't, that you can be a dick no matter what race, creed, color, or gender you are. What did we learn? We learned a lot about washing our hands, didn't we? I have a question. When you sing happy birthday, is it happy birthday to you, or do you pick somebody? Do you sing it to me? Happy birthday, dear David. Yeah, what is that? And you're supposed to do it twice. I don't sing happy birthday. I just try to make sure that... So then, around, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth, we learned about social distancing, and some of the places were open. My good friend Stan and Laura Lathan and I went out and we did a run, and we went to some of the restaurants that were still open in Meridian, and we got some gift cards. We learned how to social distancing. We sat around the table. It was great. We sat with Stan and Laura and their wonderful daughter. We spread some love. The Latham spread some serious love. They tipped well and they bought a bunch of gift cards, which is still something you can do if you want to help support your local businesses. Buy a gift card. How cool is that? Let's see what else here. Let me take a look. I've rambled a little, so. I love this from my friend from Amy. I don't believe that. I do not believe that your wonderful husband takes you to the dump every day for every Mother's Day. So that's pretty funny. Wow, here's good news from Dave Wren. Look at that. We actually have toilet paper. Maybe the run of toilet paper is off. Damn, I was going to auction this off. Maybe give it as a gift. I did a couple contests earlier. Maybe I should do that again. That's great news, David. Thank you for letting us know that. So we've learned a lot about deliveries and toilet papers and staying inside. Let's see, let me get back to my notes here. It's hard for me to read comments. I'm not a great multitasker. Have you learned that yet? Well, we learned about social distancing. Early on, we started talking about how to be better to ourselves. And this is a quote from Heard Over Coffee number 5. We talked about what we can do to be better to ourselves, and it was simple. Was I kind to myself today? Did I eat or exercise or do something that makes me feel healthy or strong? Have you done that? We often talk about one of the continuing threads is what can we do for ourselves in this crazy time, because we have so much time. It's really easy to overeat. I'm a bored eater. I really have to fight not going to refrigerator when I'm bored. So I think I've probably picked up a few pounds. Got some little extra weight here, even though I am walking the dog more. I'm probably not exercising as much. By Heard of Coffee 8, I celebrated the fact that my wife went out and found toilet paper. Boy, that seems like a long ways away, but it was really only 3 weeks. We also talked about some things you can do in your community. We talked about helping out the food banks or the school pantries. And, we talked about helping local businesses. My son's Boise Dev had geared up with a list of Boise businesses that are still open and still going. That list is still there. Also, one of my inspirations for this show is my son's BoiseDev.com. You are more than welcome to check it out. He provides fair, honest, and just the facts. He really is very good about staying political. Better even, well, way better than his father. Amy has assured us that it is true that Wayne takes her to the dump on Mother's Day. I'm suspecting that he brings her back, which is good. Glad to hear that. Oh, that's funny. I appreciate you all, folks. In 12, again, we talked about social distancing and how important that is. This was only a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about mellowing that curve out, which we have done. Thank you all. Thanks everybody across the country who stayed in and stayed safe and stayed away. They hunkered down in their bunker. I heard a great analogy. We've jumped out of the airplane. We've got our parachute open. It's opened, and we're slowing the trend. We're bringing things down. Now is not the time to take the helicopter. Now is not the time to take the parachute off. We need to continue to do that. Governor Little is going to speak today, and I suspect that he's going to loosen things up. I personally am not going to do something. I had to make a decision. The Capital City Market is trying to open on the 4th of May, and there will be some farmers and some other people. And I decided that I could not come up with a way to figure out that my coasters, that my artwork was essential. So I won't be there. That's my choice. I understand those people who really want to get open, who have lost so much money and so much time and are having so much difficulty. I do understand the economics of it, but for me, for those of us who can, I believe that we really need to stay in and stay safe. It's one of the things we've done a lot in this show. We've learned a lot about ourselves, and I want to celebrate how fantastic you are all. In 14, I ask a simple question: what has someone done for you that has been helpful in this crisis? So, my friend Denise from Canada, someone slipped chocolate under her door. How wonderful is that? My second cousin, once removed, I don't remember quite how he figured it out. Shelley White, Lisa's daughter, her neighbor made tamales for her. So even by the 14th show, we had begun to figure out a way to come together. We're helping ourselves other, and Kevin had an anonymous delivery of toilet paper. How cool is that? So one of the greatest things about all of this is we have come together as a community. We have all reached out to each other, to our family, to our friends. And when I say reached, I mean 6 feet away, but we have connected in a way that is just fantastic. I really am so proud of our country, of each of us, for doing this, to get it done. Not time to stop. It's not time to slow down in what we're doing. It scares me that there are some states that are completely opening gyms and hair salons. I do not personally think that is a particularly good idea, but of course I'm pretty okay. So, and maybe if I was a single mom whose only job was cutting hair, being a stylist, I might very well think differently. And so I do understand that. I understand the motivation, but when you're dealing with money versus health, I have in the past often chosen money, and I'm not likely to do that. And I believe as a society, we probably should not. And there I am being political again. Sorry, my friends. So I also heard from my friend Chris Carlson about the things that the people have done. Chris told me that the liquor store, Chris told us all that the liquor store took my money, and in exchange they gave me bourbon. We shared a laugh, and I think we are friends. But it wasn't all roses. We had to talk in Heard Over Coffee number 14 about several of the businesses that had to make a decision to close to maintain social distancing. They closed for their employees. They closed for the health. That included my friend Millie from Repop. She decided that she had to close the store. In fact, I think she closed it a little earlier. And Dwight Paris at Forenza Pizza. Those were not easy decisions to make, and it had to be gut-wrenching to close your business, to lock the door and walk away. But how wonderful it is that they did that to protect themselves and to protect their employees and to protect society. This is often a society thing. One of the things I have learned over the last 31 days is how fantastic we all are, how you all are. Emily Tipton just chimed in here, and good morning, Emily. Emily has, on a regular basis, either done or produced a show where she does live music. I had the opportunity to listen to her good friend Jonah Shu last week. I listened for an entire hour. One thing there is, almost all of these live music shows have the opportunity to tip either through PayPal or Venmo. I do encourage that. Drop $5 in the tip jar while you're watching these great concerts. I've also seen the crazy Ned Evett. I've watched several shows. Live, wonderful music. The Riverside is doing blues and folk every other night, so if you seek them out, listen to them, drop the tip. And thank you, Emily, for doing that. If I would love it if you would message me as to when you're going to do those, and I will mention them here on the show. So we talked about the small things you can do, the small precautions. We've talked a lot about hand sanitizing, hand washing. We also, in Heard Over Coffee number 17, we talked about fear. We talked about the people who are trying to make us afraid for their own agendas. And we talked about the very unlikely chance that any of us are to catch this crazy virus. That number is probably, especially for those of us who stay socially isolated, it's down around 2 or 3% of the population. And of that 2 or 3%, very few of them will actually get sick enough to die. So even in these tough times when we have this virulent monster virus, our personal risk is very low, and we need to consider that when we're talking about some of that stuff. So this has gone on so long, and I'm only through 17. I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. I'm going to do the last half of the month, and I'm going to talk about how crazy and wonderful you all are and how great our accomplishments are. But before anything, I really want to talk about some personal coffee mates who have made some big differences. I want to talk about Carol. Carol is making noodles for her church group. I want to talk about Robin who mentioned earlier that she made a whole bunch of masks. I want to talk about Mark Dunham. Mark was kind enough to let me share his story about his illness and how it affects his view of social isolation. And of course, all the rest of you, all these wonderful folks. How fantastic. I have been able to connect with some old friends from Sandy Brewer and Logan Hobdy, who I've known just about my whole life, to newer friends like Zig, and even more current, more contemporary friends. There are now people showing up that I don't even know. How wonderful is that? I really, really appreciate all of you, and I think that we need to be proud of ourselves. I think we need to be proud of all we have done. We really have, as a society, as a group, as the Coffee Mates, we've come together and we've held this thing in check. We've flattened that curve. We no longer are worried about there not being enough ventilators or enough hospital beds. That is a fantastic thing. I personally worry about opening too quick, and especially in the fall, we'll have another wave, and it will be worse than the first one. History tells us that that's happened with the Spanish flu, but I don't get to make those decisions. I really don't. And I want to thank Chris. I want to thank Chris Carlson for bringing me eggs, even though he snuck away like an Amazon Prime driver. And of course, I really do need to thank my son Don and his Boise Dev. If you need information that is correct and unbiased, you need to check out boisedev.com. Well, that's it, folks. What a fantastic journey we've had for the last 31 days. It's actually been 33 because I've had some mistakes here and there, but I hope that apparently I have not heard any complaints about the the quality or freezing today. So I think that we may have solved at least some of our technical issues. As soon as I figure out how to run all these buttons and do all this stuff and figure out which way to look and all that, we'll get better. Probably will be time to finish this up. So tomorrow I'm going to come back and talk about the last half of the month and what we learned and what we can celebrate and what we can enjoy. I do this Monday through. Actually, I think I'm going to skip Mondays. If you've watched the show, I went back and looked. Almost every show that was a disaster was a Monday morning. I believe that the internet is just too overwhelmed for my crazy little herd over coffee. So I'm probably going to take Mondays off instead of Sundays from here out. So every Tuesday through Saturday or Sunday, I'm not quite sure. Quite sure what we're going to do here. I do this. It's called Herd Over Coffee. I really hope you will join me, and I greatly appreciate all that you have done. Do you have a win? Do you have something you've done that you've accomplished that you want me to talk about tomorrow? Please send it to me. Either send it to me as a message or personally give me a phone call. I've talked to several of you on the phone and lots of text messages back and forth. I do so much appreciate the ability to do this, that I'm lucky enough that I can sit here in this wonderful basement of mine and be able to talk to you all. Enjoy your wins, even if they are small. Celebrate your successes and be thankful that as a society, we are beginning to beat this thing back. David Day, Herd Over Coffee. I'll be back tomorrow. Assuming I can find the button. There it is. It says finish. Then it says end of broadcast.